Hello everybody. Today we have a quick video for all you ladies and gents on how to secure your seed. Um, I usually make videos about Cardano, but this is actually relevant for basically anyone in the crypto space. So if you don't know, your seed phrase is basically usually a combination of 24 words in a specific order that acts as both a login and password at the same time. And the idea is that the combination of those 24 words in that order should be so difficult that all the computers that exist in the world calculating random combinations of these words together will not be able to come upon your specific combination in like the lifetime of the universe. So the issue is that humans are not really good at remembering 24 random words in order, right? It's not just the word, but the word in order. So there are all these different devices for how to, remember these words. And actually, a small point you can see in some of these devices, you actually only need to know the first four letters of the word, because under the different standards that and most of the standards that implement this, it's only there's only one word that has those beginning first four characters. So you don't even have to know the whole word. It's just in this case they're using HODL and stats. But I like to buy silly expensive toys sometimes, and I was going to buy one of these, but then I came across this guy's reviews, which kind of go through the price, and he puts them through a bunch of different tests, right? And he shows that even some of these really expensive devices, when they get exposed to heat, they warp and they bend, and then all the letters get out of place, or if they're crushed, same kind of idea. So I found actually one of the more interesting reviews was this little Safu Ninja, which just uses some M6 bolts. They use an acorn cap nut. I'm using a lock nut. And a M6 stainless steel fender washer, right? And they just stamp the letters into these washers, and they're pretty resistant to heat, acid, corrosion test, and being crushed. Actually, the bolt, even depending on what kind of bolt you have, kind of thing. He makes the observation that maybe if this was tighter, it would have performed even better. That's up to you, right? So one thing he did note is right here is that due to the shape and size of the washers, it's a huge pain to stamp letters into them. Also, as is the case with any device composed of loose tiles that could potentially fall out of order, there's the issue of numbering the tiles. So if he were to do this for real, he'd stamp one word per washer side along with the number of the word. So I thought about this a little bit, and given that I'm pretty comfortable with CAD and 3D printing, I have a 3D printer actually printing this second part next to me right now. I decided to make this little jig basically for holding in position 5 different locations of one of these die stamps with an orientation guide. And the idea is a little bit that you would stamp a letter A through X in this top position with it facing out, right? And then your 4 letters clockwise, if it was HODL, HODL here, and the bottom of those letters would be facing in. So whenever you look at one of these coins, basically, the position is the letter that is facing out, and the 4 letters of the actual seed phrase or seed word are facing in towards the inner diameter, right? So that's what I'm thinking there. And I will give you a quick demo of how to use this now. So everything you need, I might be missing it here, is on this little piece of Baltic birch plywood I have in front of me. So I have this little set of dies from Amazon, which was I think around 20 bucks. They're not the best, but they are made of hardened tool steel. I have these washers that I bought on Amazon again, but you can get these from your local hardware store. And I have this little guy that I just printed out. Only one of the boxes is parallel to the edges of the square that's surrounding it, right? This one. And that's the one that I'm using to mark the orientation. Also, I think when I print this out in a colored plastic, you'll be able to see, but it says stamp and stake monad there, right? Which is the name of my pool on Cardano. So the idea is you take one of these washers, you place it into this little groove, right? That's there. Turn it upside down, and I've put a little piece of just electrical tape. You can use like painter's tape or something there to help hold the orientation of this constant as you go around. That just helps it, so that you have a nice little pentagonal orientation when you're done and things don't move around on you too much. So then what you do is, again, the idea is you start with the letter A, because A is the first letter of the alphabet. I don't know if you can see this. And like I said, the bottom of the A should be facing the outside of the coin. So you put that in here. I've already stamped this earlier today when my family was awake, so I'm not going to go around and go again. But just to give you an idea, you hit this hard with a hammer, and it should leave an impression on the piece of metal. You take this out, put it back, and if your first word of your seed phrase was hodl, right, you'd take an H out. You'd make sure that the H was facing the inside here. Put that in there. Again, hit it with a hammer. Put it back. You'd get your O out. Put it in the second slot. I guess the third slot, but the second seed phrase slot. Hit it with the hammer. D would be next. Make sure again it's oriented the right way. Slide it in. The hammer. And L. L is actually really critical in this one because actually H, O, and D are all symmetrical, so it might be difficult to tell their orientation. So if you see the L you can tell, if you know English and the letter L, you can tell what side is up or down, right? So you put that in there, facing the inside, hit it with the hammer, and when you're done, you should have something that looks kind of like this. Where's the camera? Right. The washers that I got are quite hard, are quite a strong stainless steel, and the dies that I got are not super strong. So depending on your combination, they work pretty well on something like this aluminum, which is very soft, but on harder metals they might not work. So you might have to play around with some combinations of different metals and whatnot, but that should be a pretty good way to secure your seed, right? And after you do that 24 times, you could either, one thing I think, if your markings aren't so deep and so secure, what I would actually do is I'd mark both sides of each washer so that if one side does get affected, you still have that backup on the other side, maybe potentially, right? And then you'd have 24. Alternatively, you could do an A on this side and then a B on this side with your second word, and then you'd only need 12 washers to do a 24 word passphrase. Then you would get this nut. I'm missing the lock nut to make this a little bit better, but you would probably want to put some Loctite or something here so that this doesn't spin around. And then you basically have a pretty secure backup of your seed phrase by spending maybe 20 or 30 bucks in hardware at a hardware store. And one more advantage of this is no one knows that you have bought materials which are like this. Like if I have a Ledger too, right? But Ledger recently got hacked, and so I started getting death threats in my email saying, we're coming for your crypto, we know where you are, blah blah blah, nonsense like that. So if you make this yourself, you're not in anyone's database, and no one can get hacked and find out who you are and where you live, and that you might have enough crypto to warrant going through this procedure, right? So that's a benefit there. Hope you enjoyed looking at my hands today. If you like this, like and subscribe. I'm going to be putting these files for this. Let's see if I can. I'm going to be putting these files for this 3D printed thing online someplace. And of course, if you delegate to Monad, I'll be happy to send one of these to you for free. Maybe at cost. I do live in Japan. So you pay shipping, I'll send you one. The files will be online. So if you have a 3D printer from a friend, you can use that. Or I think even a lot of libraries nowadays in different locations have 3D printers available for public use. I'll look at some other places maybe where you might be able to pay to get this made locally and pick it up, because that is kind of the beauty of 3D printing, right? It doesn't really make sense actually for me to be sending things from Japan all around the world. So another one of my hobbies. So, cheers. Hope that was good for you. Enjoy.